Hi, so I'm Ronald. I'm SVP of Strategy at a publicly traded crypto company called IntelliBridge. We enable people to earn 10% stable interest on cash deposits without going to a centralized entity like a bank. We enable them to just plug in directly in decentralized finance and to custody their own money themselves without having a technical background.
Right on, okay. So talk to me a little bit about decentralization across the industry, because often I'm hearing that it's often referred to as a spectrum, spectrum of decentralization. So most projects will say, yeah, we're decentralized.
Yeah.
But when you look a little closer under the hood, they mean that they have decentralized components to their project, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that, how you view decentralization currently in the industry.
To me, decentralization comes down to a simple binary question. Is there a throat to choke? Yes or no? Can the government come in and shut you down? Yes or no? The answer is yes, you're not really decentralized, right? If all your servers or validators are on AWS, they can shut you down, right? Or if all of your validators are given grant money by your parent institution and they can control what the validators do, that's not really decentralized. So decentralized simply means, can you kidnap someone and it would shut down the project, or kidnap the core team and shut down the project, yes or no, or could it still survive? Bitcoin is truly decentralized. A lot of these other protocols, they want to be decentralized, and for reasons of skirting government regulations, they try to say they're decentralized, but I think we're still so early on that it's really hard to find true decentralized projects, especially what I think is an important area, decentralization of stablecoin technology.
So these the marketing in this space, often they talk about we're decentralized, we're audited. Audited is another thing that they talk about.
Yeah.
And then when I look at these auditors, I often find they're literally nobody. They could be, a couple of 15-year-old kids in their basement doing this auditing,
To me, like, auditing is kind of like, Moody's giving something a AAA rated bond. Like, does that even mean anything, right? It's not about saying, oh, I've been audited by 3 different firms. It's like, what is the quality of the firm auditing you? And is the code open source for everyone to see and audit themselves? Because what's more important is a random person on Reddit can look through your whole code base, find a flaw, point it out, and say, this is potential to be a rug pull. And then everyone finds it out, and they see that exploit, and then they pull their money out of it. That's the power of decentralization. It's not about one person being a center of trust. It's about the whole community collectively forming trust around the security, around the sustainability, around the validity of the team, and all those different factors.
Yeah, and you mentioned community.
Yes.
A very important role for every project is a solid community base,
yes.
Right? And what I've realized is that much like groupthink or tribalism, you get these very, very strong, passionate communities congregating around a project or a token or a coin, and no matter what anybody says, even if they look at the code or, like you say, and verify themselves, they still just maintain their belief in the token. Are you familiar with Richard Hart?
Tell me more about it.
So Richard Hart I think he coined the phrase pumpamentals.
Okay, yeah.
His coin is Hex.
Uh-huh.
You've heard of it?
I've heard of Hex, yes.
Yeah. So his tribe are called Hexicans, and they won't budge an inch. They are so fanatical about the project.
Yeah.
And they're not the only ones. Every coin or token seems to have a tribe attached to it.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit on the importance of community and how going forward we hope we won't end up with a bunch of dictators, whether they're benevolent or not.
Yeah.
That are sort of running these tokens, these projects on people that are, perhaps not as clued in as they ought to be.
There's a funny saying in the crypto world that anytime a coin is down by a lot of money, people say, I'm in it for the technology. Right? And I'm not sure this is a controversial statement to say on your program, but I think people don't really care about decentralization. They care about making money. right? Everyone just wants to make money. And whatever they use, whether it's we're audited, we're decentralized, we're creating this great technology for this use case, it's really, people are just in it to get big gains at the end of the day. And that's okay, because profit-driven motivation enables a free market of ideas where thousands of people compete against each other, and those thousands of ideas naturally rise to the very best solution. So when it comes to decentralization, it is inherently a superior solution to a centralized solution, because you're always worried, to your point, about a dictator, right? Or someone who's going to make a bad decision. But a decentralized element enables a community to vote in a collective way. And when it comes to that, yes, there will be group things and small tribalism today, but over the course of 10 years, a lot of those projects will die out due to natural selection. And the really great projects with strong decentralization, with strong fundamentals, with strong financial incentives, with strong leadership, and with sustainability will really rise to the top at the end. And you just have to let it run its natural course over a period of several years, because this is still very new. And I'm excited for where the industry will be in 2030.
When a lot of people throw the word around scam in this industry, but what are they really saying? Are they really saying it has it's centralized?
Yeah.
Is that what is it corresponding in that way?
So, I hear your question about people here to say that, and then they're like, is this too good to be true? It reminds me of a quote from Elon Musk, I think, where he said that any technology that is sufficiently advanced enough should be indistinguishable from magic. And when you see about the innovations in the crypto sector, you say to yourself, how is it possible to get 10% stable interest on cash deposits when my bank is giving me 0.4%? Like, is someone lying to me? And so when you hear about the innovation around decentralization, and you hear that we've literally created a technical ecosystem that the government literally cannot shut down without shutting down the entire internet, that is something that's hard for people to wrap their mind around. But that's the beauty of this whole industry, is that it's a ground up initiative from people telling their governments, telling companies, telling the society, this is what we want our future to look like. We're going to take it back. We're not going to let a politician dictate what we want to be our future. We're going to make that decision together. And in the long run, we've seen it. We've seen Bitcoin cross the tipping point. And in the next 10 years, we're going to see more and more applications in healthcare and supply chain and retail all cross that same tipping point that Bitcoin today has crossed.
You mentioned before, Ponzi's.
Yes.
Ponzi's and pyramids, these words are often thrown around in crypto as well.
I think in crypto, the innovations are so radical that it's hard to wrap your mind around it, and the mechanisms are so complex that people like to oversimplify things for the sake of understanding and for the sake of just, diving right in, like carpe diem, FOMO, degenning is now the term. And when you hear these advanced technologies, there's a complex way to explain it, and as you're in the community, you start to learn it over time. It's a thing where in crypto where people interest you by saying negative interest rate loans, and you're like, how? And then once you put money into it, and now you're financially invested and emotionally invested, then you research all this stuff, and you're like, oh, this is actually a real thing. And now you tell all your friends about it at the dinner table, and then you try to promote it. And what's exciting is that in crypto, some of these unbelievable value propositions are a function of having a lack of access to traditional marketing. A lot of crypto protocols don't advertise on television or newspaper or radio. So instead, they just give free money or bonus money to early adopters of the platform, who then take that and become influencers within their local communities. So hopefully that makes more mechanical sense of why you hear some ridiculous concepts like negative interest rate loans.
Yeah, I think one of the most ridiculous things I've heard I've been looking into is flash loan.
Yeah.
So this is a loan that takes place momentarily within a transaction on chain.
Yeah.
Have you tried a flash loan?
I know flash loans are on Aave. I know flash loans are coming on Terra. I personally do not leverage to the point where I need flash loans, but I recognize that especially for market makers, larger entities that want to do market making functions and that want to arbitrage. Flash loans are a useful tool. Again, with any tool, it's a matter of risk management. But the beautiful thing in crypto is that there's no arbitrator of saying who's allowed to take risk and who's not allowed to take risk, who's protected and who's not protected. It's purely free market. You take a risk, you lose all your money. You take a risk, you make a bunch of money. And that's why crypto has all these huge swings, because it's a bunch of people making bets against each other and making money and losing money. That's pure capitalism without government cronyism intervening and saying, oh, there's these people lobbying to us, therefore we're going to protect this group of people when they take risk and they get burned, which is what we saw in the United States in 2008. In crypto, no one cares. It's computer algorithms.
Yeah, also I assume we would hope over the long term it will force people to get smart.
I mean, once upon a time when the internet came out, you had these emails from these Nigerian princes that asked for money, right? And eventually we collectively became smarter to that. Or spam calls on tax returns or whatnot. So I think in crypto it's so new that people aren't aware of a lot of these new things, which is why you see meme coins pop up. But you give it 10 to 15 years of maturation and people are gonna have a self-awareness and a self-understanding of what's legit and not legit. And when people say, oh, it's decentralized, who's going to protect us against all the scammers in the world? Does anyone say that for all the Nigerian princes emailing you? No, it's pretty well known, that's a scam. And as we have the next 10, 15 years, people will build up that collective consciousness of knowing what is legit and not legit in the crypto space. So that will be a problem solved with time rather than a propaganda tool to shut down the entire crypto industry.